Hey guys, it's Casey and welcome back to my channel, and also welcome back. No, not welcome back, because I'm no longer doing my 2025 series because, well, I was talking to somebody today and they very rightly pointed out the fact that the entire point of me coming on YouTube and filming videos in the first place is that it was supposed to be me unpacking everything that happened to me, sort of like my own little therapy space, and not so much me just dunking on your societies and everything that I believe you do wrong in them. So we're going back to the original plan, which is me talking about my favorite subject, me. Because let's be honest, when you make the kind of videos that I make, you get people who are very, very curious about certain things. They ask questions, they make assumptions, and every now and then I get one or two commenters accusing my stories of being figments of imagination, which honestly, fair enough. However, they very much are real. And so I thought today the best course of action to open myself back up to the original direction that I was planning to take this channel in is to just pull the curtain back a little bit and share some tidbits about myself. Because here are 20 facts about me that might help explain why every video I make sounds like a lost episode of The Twilight Zone. Or maybe not, but either way, enjoy the ride. Fact number 1, I am classified as a stateless individual under treaty protection, and what this means is that I lack any formal citizenship in any known or recognized country in the world. So instead of my human rights being protected by my country, they are instead protected by an international treaty agreement, of which this specific treaty in question, I am like one of 7 people in the entire world covered under, which is very, very fun, but the whole being stateless thing, not so much. Because of my stateless status, I do not have a passport, and so if or when I want to travel for whatever reason, I do so on an additional travel document called a Laissez-Passer, which is every bit as bureaucratic as it sounds. So every single trip that I take requires the approval of my handlers. So even if it's just a weekend trip to New Zealand, it turns into a month-long paperwork marathon, and it's like asking permission to live your own life. I am ridiculously short, like cannot ride some roller coasters level of short. I stand anywhere between 5'10" and 5'1", depending on which shoes I'm wearing. On my best days, I am barely brushing average, but on my worst days, I require a step stool just to even reach the middle shelf. Let alone the top shelf is pretty much always out of order for me. I am blind in my right eye, legally blind in my right eye, but only when my left eye is closed. So this is due to a mild traumatic brain injury that I suffered in my 20s. And so when both eyes are open at the same time, I have perfect 20/20 vision. But the second that my left eye closes, my right eye just goes completely rogue and shows me a world of blurry blotches, almost as if someone has smeared Vaseline over reality. And I like to joke sometimes that after the injury, my right eye just decided to pack it in and leave all the heavy lifting up to my left eye. You know, teamwork. But people in your time don't really appreciate jokes like that very much. So fact number 5 is a direct carry-on from fact number 4, and that is that my glasses are completely redundant in every way, shape, and form, and yet I have to wear them all the time. And it's not because they correct my vision. They don't. Like I said, my visual problems are a result of a brain injury and not a structural issue with my eye. In fact, these specific glasses, these purple ones, there's no prescription in them. They're just plain glass. Like they came from a doctor, but they're just plain glass. And yet I have to wear them constantly because if I don't wear them, I get what I can only describe as phantom ocular migraines. And these are not like regular headaches. These are excruciatingly painful. And the only thing that makes them go away is to put my glasses on. But the real big kicker about it is that my glasses don't even need to be on my face. Oftentimes just perching them atop my head like a headband is enough to do the trick. It's almost as if my brain needs to know that my glasses are there, sort of like a weird mental security blanket. I have got exactly 0 tattoos and 0 piercings, though it is not from a lack of trying. So in my home culture, piercings in particular are incredibly, incredibly culturally important and significant. For example, when you get married in your culture, you get a ring to signify that you are off the market. However, in my culture, you get 2 things that signify that. Firstly, you get an amulet, which is just a little necklace with either your family shield on it or your spouse's family shield, depending on certain dynamics. And then you also get your tragus pierced. So your tragus is the bumpy part connected to your head. So that part like there, you get that pierced, and that is our equivalent of a wedding ring. However, as it turns out, my ears are staunch traditionalists in that they do not like piercings at all. I have attempted to pierce my ears on several occasions. I have the keloid scars to prove it. However, each and every time that I have attempted to do so, my earlobes have just gone full rebellion. They have gone red and they've gone pussy and they've eaten the earring and they're just not having it. They have staged a full-blown rebellion each and every time. It does not matter how closely I follow the aftercare instructions or how hypoallergenic the earring that I'm trying to shove in them is. It's off the table. I've reached a point in my life where I have accepted that I'm just not supposed to have pierced ears. But unfortunately, that has had the follow-on effect of me being terrified of trying to get a tattoo, and I cannot fathom sitting down to try to get one because the idea of having that kind of reaction to something that I can physically not remove from my body is just terrifying. If I did have tattoos, I would have Robin Williams' face tattooed on my left butt cheek and Gene Wilder on the right. Specifically, I would have the Wikipedia page photos because the 70s looked really fun, and also those looked like two men who would deeply appreciate being tattooed on my butt. Though I have no piercings and no tattoos, when I was doing my initial medical training for a very brief period of time, I did end up performing extreme body modification surgeries. And it was a very fascinating detour that taught me a lot about how to approach a patient without judgment. And through it, quite frankly, I learned a very unique set of skills that still come in handy to this very day. And looking back now, I think that the most unique and interesting surgery that I performed during that period is that I took teeny tiny magnets and I inserted them into my patient's fingertips so he could quite literally feel the magnetic field around him, and it was very, very fun. Number 9, I have been married once. Number 10, I have had exactly one child. I completed medical school in 2 weeks. Well, sort of, in a way. When I first arrived here, I was thrust into a whirlwind crash course. So it was a 2-week intensive specifically designed for me so I could sit my licensing exams, and it may not have been the traditional medical school experience, but it got the job done. So when I first arrived here, I lacked all my official paperwork that showed my qualifications, and so a very unusual agreement was reached, and that is that if I sat this 2-week crash course and completed it to a satisfactory level for my supervisor, once I was finished, I would be awarded an MBBS from Imperial College London. So technically that is where I graduated from, at least according to the paperwork. The 10 years that I've been here, I have lived in 5 different countries. In order, they were America, then Italy, then England, then Norway for a very brief period of time, and then eventually I ended up here in Australia, where I've been ever since. Each of those moves were their own whirlwind adventure, and through them I kind of became a mosaic person of different cultures and tastes and quirks. So the original reason that I got sent to Australia is that I was going to be the base doctor at the Casey station in Antarctica. And so my first point of call in Australia was Hobart, Tasmania, and I spent several months working with the Australian Arctic Division getting ready to actually be the base doctor in Antarctica. However, after that, they decided that they didn't actually need me. Well, no, that's not fair and it's not true. So what happened is that the original base doctor, he'd been working there since like the 70s, so he'd been working there a really long time. And he finally decided that he was going to retire, so they were going to push me into his place. But then he decided, actually, I don't want to retire, I want to do one more season, so he came back and they didn't have a job for me anymore. So at that point, they sent me to Melbourne, where I just kind of languished for 18 months because, in my opinion, Melbourne, Australia is a really boring city unless you're eating or shopping, and I wasn't doing either. So I pretty much just spent 18 months figure skating, so I would go to the ice rink 4 to 5 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week, and that was my entire life until like the last 3 months, in which case they put me on emergency room duties, which were fine, but I didn't really appreciate it because they put me in a women and children's hospital, and I have never before, prior to this, been a children's doctor, and I haven't done it after this either. But that was fine. I got some experience in that, and they got to supervise me, which is why they wanted to do it. Then we had a meeting and discussed where I was going to go after this, and I really wanted to, I still like the idea of like remote medicine. So I wanted to work on an oil rig, or I wanted to be an army doctor. But because of the conditions of the treaty that I'm under, I couldn't be either of those things. So they ended up sending me out here to this shitty little town to work in a hospital, which has absolutely no medical excitement to it. And it really sucks that I didn't get to go to Casey because I absolutely would have loved going out there. I mean, I could still go out there now because I just checked and they've got positions going. I don't know if it's specifically Casey Station, but they've got jobs going for doctors there at the moment. But I think that ship has failed, but I would have really loved it. I actually got to go out there for 2 weeks, once in between supply ships in the summer, and it was an amazing experience. And I was really looking forward to actually going out there and living out there for the majority of the year, specifically because when I was supposed to be going out there, they had a research project going on in which they were going to be tracking the Arctic orcapods. And if you don't know, orcas are one of my special interests. So I was really looking forward to being able to observe and read that research fresh off the press. But what can you do? I have been out here in my shitty little town for 5 years now, and I don't think that's going to change for a variety of reasons. Speaking of Casey, Casey is not my name. It is a nickname, and it is a nickname that I did not even receive until I was already an adult. And somehow it stuck. It stuck really well. Prior to this, for the first 18 years of my life, nobody called me anything but my actual proper name. But after that, nowadays, ever since I received the nickname, if anyone was to actually call me my proper name, I probably wouldn't respond to it because sometimes I forget that I actually have a proper name. Speaking of my proper name, it does not exist yet. If you were to Google my proper name, you would not find a single person with that name, famous or otherwise. In fact, the only thing that you would find under the Google search for my name would be a farming supplement company that went bankrupt about 7 years ago, which admittedly is not the most glamorous origin story. My name is also not one of those tragedy names where someone got too creative with the spelling or the pronunciation. It just doesn't exist yet. If I was to tell you my name, you'd be like, yeah, like, obviously that's a name. It sounds nice. It sounds like a proper name. It sounds like it should exist. It just doesn't yet. I have got a prion disease, a very unique and unsettling thing to say, I know. The words themselves are really heavy and feel unnatural, sort of like an episode of House. In fact, it's exactly like an episode of House. Of these tiny, microscopic enigmas living inside of me that most medical professionals will never encounter outside of a textbook. And I can't actually tell you what prion disease I have for no other reason than the fact that I actually can't say the words. Like, I physically cannot make my mouth morph into the correct sound. Like Celestria for, see, I can't say that. Like, I get on that after that Celestria thing, I'm like, I can't say the rest of it. It's like for bobbly. And then encephalopathy, the same thing. It's the same kind of sound. I just can't say it correctly. If you want to hear me attempt to say it, you can go back a few videos and look at the comments, because there's some idiot after I attempted to say it in my comments like, you're saying it wrong. And I was like, yeah, I know I'm saying it wrong. So I contracted my prion disease from a friend, which is another very unusual twist in an already strange story. And it's there's an eerie kind of intimacy in knowing that something so small and invisible can pass between two people and just change the entire trajectory of your entire life. But also, if or when I die while here, there is an agreement that the World Health Organization gets to take my brain, like physically take my brain. So that's kind of cool. So my favorite holiday is Saturnalia, which none of you have any idea what you're missing out on, because Christmas is just a pale imitation of the sheer fabulousness that is Saturnalia, like the gift giving and the feasting and the reversal of the societal roles. It is everything that a holiday celebration is supposed to be. It is chaotic and it's joyful and it is unapologetically indulgent. I don't know how you all think Christmas is any comparison to it. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that Christmas isn't cute, because it actually is cute. Like, I really appreciate the twinkling lights everywhere. So that seems to be going down in recent years in terms of popularity. So I don't appreciate that, and that just makes Christmas even worse. But when you look at it in comparison to Saturnalia, like, where's the whimsy? Where's the drama? Where is the absolute societal upheaval? And every time for the last 10 years that December has come around, I have just felt so sad for you all that you live in a world where Saturnalia has been replaced by really bad, mass-produced fruitcake. I am absolutely addicted to garage sales or yard sales for my American friends. They are my absolute favorite weekend pastime, and I get a thrill that I cannot even put into words every time I go to one. On the rare occasion that Ash and I have the same weekend day off, we will drive hours just to go to a yard sale. In fact, we have taken annual leave, the both of us, at the same time, to go to Sydney on one occasion and Adelaide on another occasion just to go to garage sales and pick through everything. Because every single garage sale is like a treasure hunt, and I am an adventurer picking through everyone's dusty knickknacks and broken mugs to find a gem of a piece. Like, I could go to a garage sale every single day of my life and never get bored. There is something so magical about picking through people's car stuff and finding something that just sparks joy. I have survived 3 sinking ships in my lifetime, and no, I'm not a pirate, though I would argue that I would make a better one than Jack Sparrow. I've emerged from all my misadventures unscathed, though they have made me question my love for maritime adventures. I'm allergic to literally everything here, and I don't mean that in a dramatic, my throat is closing up, and of like a kind of shock way, but more in a, why does this sausage hate me sort of way. The first time that I got here, like when I initially got here, even water was enough to give me hives. Water. I became the kind of person who could actively be defeated by hydration. My first 2 years here were just a blur of antibiotics and antihistamine and me looking at food suspiciously because I could never tell what was safe and what wasn't to eat, because something would be safe one time and then the next time I would react to it. I literally spent 2 years on antibiotics, and not the small kind. Like, they were huge horse pills, like huge pills for 2 entire years without a break. It's like my immune system was a contestant on its own reality TV show, and it kept trying to vote itself off the island. And I haven't been on antibiotics lately. I haven't needed to be. I think the last time I was actively on antibiotics for a long time was I was on them for 2 months early last year. But I still have pretty semi-regular reactions to things. The most recent food that I've had a reaction to, a banana. Like, not even some exotic, mysterious banana, just a regular banana. Even the air here messes me up, and it's not because the air is dry or you have a lack of energy in your atmosphere, which, by the way, you do, but it's like the air itself is actively offended by my existence. It's like my skin is constantly in a state of rebellion. It is dry and peely and flaky, like I've just been lost in the desert for a week and found my way back to civilization, which if you've watched my videos, you've no doubt seen or will see in the future. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. But I have developed a very strict skincare regime, which is out of sheer necessity more than anything else. And moisturizer isn't just a part of that, it is an absolute lifeline for me. I apply it a minimum of 3 times a day, and I need to just to keep from looking like I'm auditioning to be an extra in a mummy movie. So every single moisturizer that I use has to be vetted like it is running for public office. It has to be alcohol-free and fragrance-free and hyperallergenic and dermatologist approved and endorsed by at least 3 skincare gods just to even be tested on my face. As for makeup, I have worn makeup maybe 3 times in the entire 10 years that I've been here, and each time has ended very, very badly. My skin treats foundation like it is an enemy invader, and the last time that I attempted to wear eyeliner, my eyes swelled up so severely that for the next week it looked like I had just gone 12 rounds in a boxing ring. But despite all this, I have not been sick a single day that I've been here. Like, forget COVID, I have not had so much as a cold. My immune system might hate the environment, but when it comes to germs, it is an absolute fortress. Like coughing coworkers and vomiting patients, nothing can touch me. I am a germ-free unicorn in a world full of tissues and hand sanitizer. I speak 5 languages fluently, but often forget very basic words in English. For example, one time at a dinner party, I forgot the word for spoon, and so I referred to it as a soup shovel, horrifying absolutely everybody. I work at a remote hospital on the edge of the Australian outback where the weirdest stuff happens on a near daily basis. It's the kind of place that feels like it was plucked straight out of a fever dream or a conspiracy theory, and yet somehow everything that happens there is real. Unexplained lights in the sky? Check. Weird, unidentified illnesses that seemingly no one has ever heard of before? Double check. Animals showing up in weird places they shouldn't be? Triple check. Like the one time that a moose casually wandered through our car park. Again, we're in the Australian outback. There should be no mooses or moose. What's the plural? Moose? Mooses doesn't sound right. My, how time passes when I'm the only one doing the talking. We're up to that part where I am supposed to end it on a phrase that says something simple, albeit clever, albeit straight from the heart. Something that says, we're all in this together. Something that leaves you feeling a little less crazy in a world where it's not always easy to come apart something that is a little less crazy. If only I knew what that specific phrase was. But I don't, and I don't really know what my next video is going to be, but I will figure it out and I will get back to you. But in the meantime, this is Casey signing off. And as always, stay weird out there, stay safe, and have a good night.